Good afternoon, students. So today we are going to see about the first chapter of the third module, that is key management. So in this key management, first we are going to see about the introduction part, then the digital certificates, public infrastructure. So let us see with the introduction. So key management is related to the generation, storage, distribution and backup of keys. So the main focus on the management of public key, private key pairs, as the key management is basically focuses on this public key cryptography system, which needs to make use of two keys. One is a public key, another is a private key. So here, how do you manage this public key, private key pair? So that is what a part will be focusing in this chapter. So the public key and private key pairs are used for encryption or decryption, signature generation or verification, and for authentication. To encrypt a session key for use and communication between A and B, A needs to know B's public key. So the key issue here is, how does A knows B's public key? So here are the three possibilities in which A knows the B's public key. First possibility is that A may frequently communicate with B in a secure fashion, so she may already have B's public key. So this above possibility makes use of assumption. First, B must have securely communicated his public key to A at some point in the past. Then by securely, we mean that A actually receives B's public key and not a public key from someone posing as B. So this is a first possibility. The second possibility is that every entity's public key is securely maintained in a centralized directory. So there is a repository, centralized repository, in which all the user has to register himself, and once they will be registered himself, they will be keeping the public key of the registered users in their centralized repository, and those who want to have a communication with the other party, they need to visit the repository. Then what they have to get the public key of that person to whom they want to communicate, and then by using that key they can make use of a further communication. Suppose A wishes to securely communicate with an e-commerce website, that is B-Mart. Then all she has to do is to obtain B-Mart's public key, so in which that A can communicate to the repository by querying it. Who would take the responsibility for maintaining such a directory? Then once the request or query is sent to the repository, then they will make use of whether the public key of that person is available. If it is available, they will supply to A. Third possibility is that A receives a document signed by a trusted source C containing the B's public key. So this approach appears to be obviate the need for an online centralized directory site. So these are the three possibilities we have in which A knows the B's public key. So the second point which we are going to see here is the digital certificates. So first one is a so in this we are going to see 3 points total: certificate types, X.509 digital certificate format, digital certificate in action. So first we'll see certificate types. A digital certificate is a signed document used to bind a public key to the identity of a person. As an individual's identity could be his or her name, national identification number, email or postal address, employer, etc., or some combination of these. The entity that issues the certificate is a trusted entity, and that is called as certification authority. So certificates may be issued to individuals, to organization, or even to servers. The most basic type of certificate may be applied for through regular email with the applicant stating his or her public key, name, email, address, etc. So in this case, the certification authority requires no credentials from the applicant. It simply assumes that the applicant is in possession of the private key corresponding to the public key contained in the application received in via email. Then the verifier of such a certificate should realize that the above certificate are trust at your own risk certificates. To carry more weight, certificate issuance would require the certification authority to perform identity verification of the applicant. This will involve submission of credentials such as password or his or her employer email address, etc. So this task would be delegated by the certification authority to a registration authority. The role of a registration authority may be performed by a bank, for example, which has an existing relationship with the customer. The next one is the X.509 digital certificate format. So this is what exactly the X.509 certificate, which is going to consist of a version number, certificate serial number, algorithm and parameters, which is called as signature algorithm, identifiers, then issuer name, not before, not after, it is a period of validity, subject name, subject's public information will be algorithm parameters key, issuer unique identifier, subject unique identifier, extensions, and signatures, which consist of algorithms, parameters, encrypted hash. So this X.509 is an ITU standard specifying the format for public key certificates. The fields are, first one is a certificate version and a serial number. Each certificate issued by a given certificate authority will have a unique number, and that unique number along with the version will be specified. Then next is going to have a issuer information, which is distinguished name of the entity, which is a common name, email address, organization, country, etc., along with the algorithm and a parameter which has used for signature. Next is the subject information. So this includes the distinguished name of the certificate subject or owner. Next one is the subject's public key information, the public key algorithm, which is RSA or DSA, the public key parameters. So in addition, the specific use of a public key private key pair may also be included in this. Next we have its a validity period. There are two date fields that specify the start date and the end date between which your certificate is valid. Next one is the certificate signature and associated signing algorithm information. It is necessary to verify the authenticity of the certificate. For this purpose, it is signed by the issuer. So the certificate should include the issuer's digital signature and also the algorithm used for signing the certificate. Next one is digital certificates in action. Assume that A needs to securely transmit a session key to B. So she encrypts it with B's public key. A will need to retrieve the public key from B's certificate. A may already have B's certificate, so she may send a message to B requesting it. There are a number of checks that A will have to perform on B's certificate prior to using B's public key. Is this indeed a B certificate? This can be determined by checking whether the certificate contains B's name. But the common name field alone may be inadequate. So it may be necessary to check other fields in the certificate such as subject's web page, that is URL or email address. A should check if the certificate is still valid or not. Finally, the certificate must be signed by certification authority or a registration authority. A should verify the signature contained in the certificate. A requires the certification authority public key for signature verification. Then certification authority may be globally known or may be known to the community that A and B belongs. So in this case, A has access to the certification authority's public key. So next one is a public key infrastructure. So in this public key infrastructure, first we'll see what are the functions of PKI, what is the PKI architecture, then certificate revocation. So first one, public key infrastructure includes the certification authorities, the physical infrastructure, that is encryption technologies, hardware, etc., and the formulation and enforcement of policies or procedures. It also includes the entire gamut of services required in supporting the use of digital certificates. So some of the services the PKI includes are certificate creation, issuance, storage, archival, key generation, key escrow, certificate or key updation, certificate revocation. So in the case of encryption or a decryption, it is necessary to have a backup of the decryption key. So the PKI within an organization might hold the private key in escrow, that is nothing but it may be securely backed up and made available to the owner or a trusted authority under special circumstances. So there is no need to back up a private key used for signing. If such a key is lost, then the owner could inform the certification authority or a PKI administrator. Then he or she could then obtain a fresh signing key and receive a new certificate carrying the corresponding public key. Next, an important function of the PKI is to provide a safe archival facility for all issued certificates. So these are the main services of the PKI. So next one we'll see, it's a PKI architecture. So this PKI architecture is going to divide into 4 types. First one, PKI with a single certification authority. Then it's a tree-based or hierarchical PKI. Next is a mesh-based PKI. Then another is a bridge-based PKI. So what exactly do you mean by these all? We'll see. So first one, certification authority 1, in this the first figure, could issue certificates to multiple users. Suppose the multiple users are U1, U2, UN, enabling any pair of these users to communicate securely using certificates exchanged between them. So each arc in this figure is a trust relationship, means U1 is having a trust on CA1 and CA1 is having a trust on U1. Like that, CA1 is having a trust on U2, U2 is going to have a trust on CA1, like that. But the problem is that this architecture is not scalable. There are tens of millions of users who may need certificates, and it is not practical for CA1 to issue certificates to all of them, especially if the type of certificate issued is the one that requires much background checking. So the practical solution to the problem of scalability is to have certification authority 1 certify other certification authorities, who in turn certify other certification authorities, and so on, which is nothing but called as hierarchical PKI architecture. So this creates a tree of a certification authorities. So here CA1 is going to issue the certificates to CA2, CA3 and CA4. In turn, CA2 is going to issue the certificate to CA5 and to user 1. In turn, CA5 is going to issue the certificates to the user U2 and U3, like that. So the advantage of this approach is easy scalability. That is, each certification authority is responsible for certifying a limited number of users or node in the tree. So next one, we call it as a meshed. Now suppose in this figure, suppose U1 needs U1 needs U5 certificate. Then U5 certificate is signed by CA6. Then first, U1 may not have CA6 public key to verify signature on U5 certificate, and U1 does not have a trust relationship with the CA6. So, how to overcome this problem? So, for that, they have went for this mesh-based PKI. So, this could include the mutually trusting CAs, that is CA1 trusting CA2, CA3, then CA2 is trusting CA4, CA3 as well as CA1. So unlike in the tree-based PKI, there may be multiple trust paths between the two users. So if anyone want to have a certificate from any other mesh, they can get it, as all the CAs are going to trust each other. But this is not the case with this hierarchical PKI. So the last one is a bridge-based PKI. It is motivated by the need for secure communication between organizations in a business partnership. Suppose the partnering organization already have their own PKI, a bridge CA is introduced that establishes trust relationship with a representative CA from each organization. So this is accomplished by the bridge CA and the other organizational representatives issuing certificates to each other. The representative CA is one that has a trust path to all of the users in that organization. So this is what bridge means. They are going to have their own PKI organization. Now they suppose there are two different organizations and they need to have a partnership among themselves. Then they can go for including this bridge certification authority PKI, in which this CA is going to represent this CA and this is going to represent this CA, and they are going to be attached or bridged through this bridge CA. So this is what regarding the different types of PKI architectures. So further part we'll see in the next class or a next video.